Hello, this is Congresswoman Harriet Hageman, here to speak with you about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA, which recently passed the House of Representatives. There seems to be quite a bit of incorrect information floating around out there, as well as questions as to what is and what isn't included in the bill, and I thought it was important to set the record straight. It is important to keep in mind that this should not be considered a spending bill, and it is not part of the annual federal budgeting process. The Big Beautiful Bill is instead what we refer to as a budget reconciliation bill. The reconciliation process, which was adopted in 1974, allows Congress to expedite consideration of certain tax, spending, and debt limit legislation. Expedited consideration means the bill avoids the Senate filibuster, and it is therefore one of the first opportunities for the Republican trifecta to deliver on the promises that we made, including providing the funds to secure our border and prevent the largest tax increase in the history of our country. The bill may only be expedited if we follow a series of fairly strict rules that are outlined in the law. These rules limit what we can achieve through this process. The American people spoke clearly last November. They want us to change course, and we need to go in a new direction, particularly when it comes to federal spending, securing the border, unleashing American energy, and promoting prosperity. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act delivers a $1.6 trillion cut in federal spending, the largest in 30 years. It also makes permanent the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent, thereby delivering tax relief to all Americans. Our taxes are currently scheduled to dramatically increase as of December 31st of this year, unless we pass the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Rather than facing a 24% tax hike at the end of the year, and by passing the BBBA, the average Wyoming family will continue to save $1,449. We have also extended and expanded the death tax exemption and child tax credit, provided numerous tax breaks for small businesses, while including President Trump's promise of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and tax relief to our Social Security recipients. In order to raise federal revenues, the Natural Resources Committee, on which I serve, was tasked with unleashing our American energy industry, and Wyoming will play a key role in that endeavor. This bill eliminates the coal moratorium, mandates action on coal lease applications, reinstates quarterly oil and gas lease sales in our state, and reduces the royalty on coal to pre-pandemic levels, thereby allowing our companies to reinvest in funds in their operations and employees. After decades of underfunding and misdirection of assets, our immigration system has become overburdened, a situation made exponentially worse by the Biden border crisis. The OBBBA creates a new fee-based system to ensure that Americans are not footing the bill for others to come here, and requires that foreign individuals who seek to come to our country pay for the services they seek, including fees for processing of applications and the like. It also provides resources and personnel to catch and remove at least 1 million illegal aliens, increase detention capacity, and complete the border wall. Medicaid was created for low-income children, pregnant women, parents of dependent children, individuals 65 years of age and older, and individuals with disabilities. It was never intended as a welfare program for individuals who simply choose not to work. Thanks to Obamacare and Biden-era policies, the Medicaid program has been shifted away from providing medical care for these traditional populations. And today, Washington, D.C. spends 7 times more money for able-bodied, working-age adults enrolled on Medicaid than it does for our young single mothers and those with physical or mental challenges, which is actually the target population for which the program was created in the first place. This misdirection of resources has been combined with other waste, fraud, and abuse, such as states providing Medicaid coverage to illegal aliens, to create a fiscal nightmare that threatens the long-term health and well-being of the program. Medicaid has been growing exponentially and overspending taxpayer dollars, while the quality and availability of care for our traditional populations has declined. This situation is unacceptable and unsustainable. The big, beautiful bill does not cut $880 billion from Medicaid. It does not take back previously allocated money for American communities, and it does not cut aid to traditional Medicaid populations. In fact, Wyoming will be rewarded with higher state-directed payment rates for not having expanded Medicaid to cover able-bodied adults. Our Wyoming legislature rightfully refused to expand Medicaid, and the OBBBA will provide additional benefits as a result. It is clear that Americans do not believe that illegal aliens or able-bodied adults should be added to the Medicaid rolls. The OBBBA thus removes funding for illegal aliens and fraudulent payments and imposes work requirements on able-bodied adults who do not have dependents. These are common sense reforms that everyone should agree are overdue. Anyone decrying these reforms is showing their true colors. Their real intent is to impose universal health care, a one-size-fits-all approach whereby the federal government is in control of all aspects of our medical care, and they have been using Medicaid as the mechanism to realize this goal. Many have asked why codification of Doge Cuts was not included in the bill. Again, our ability to cut spending is determined by the reconciliation rules, and many of the Doge Cuts simply don't qualify. Doge has been focused on discretionary spending, which is provided for in the annual spending bills and includes funding for grants, agencies, and more. Reconciliation, in contrast, is addressed to mandatory spending, like Medicaid and food stamps, which is why reform to target waste, fraud, and abuse in these programs is prioritized in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. We are not ignoring the need to make the Doge cuts permanent, and we will be doing so through budgetary rescissions, a separate legal process whereby President Trump sends a letter to Congress identifying which programs and funding streams should be cut. We will then pass a resolution doing so. Just this week, the White House sent a letter to Congress requesting rescission of $9.4 billion, and we are working to swiftly pass these cuts into law, as well as prioritizing further cuts in the fiscal year 2026 appropriations bills that are under development. Our Medicaid program is not just filled with tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse, but like so many of our institutions, it has been used to advance the radical woke agenda. The OBBBA includes such reforms as prohibiting taxpayer funds being paid to abortion providers such as Planned Parenthood, and disallows use of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars from being used to pay for transgender surgeries for both minors and adults. I am also happy to report that this bill takes significant steps towards repealing the harmful so-called Inflation Reduction Act by repealing and rescinding climate change and greenhouse gas slush funds and phasing out the subsidies that propped up EVs and wind and solar projects that otherwise couldn't stand on their own. And finally, the OBBBA provides much-needed deregulation by repealing funding associated with Biden-era rules while providing additional monetary resources to support the deregulatory efforts undertaken by the Trump administration. There is no denying that much is broken in Washington, D.C. We must recognize, however, that our reconciliation process is constrained by law and political realities. I am proud of what the House achieved and look forward to working to deliver the reforms that are desperately needed. I will also continue to work diligently on behalf of the state of Wyoming to pursue other needed reforms through our traditional legislative process. I am still pursuing the delisting of the grizzly bear, taking power away from sanctuary cities, reforming our regulatory regime, protecting our legacy industries, reforming our education system, and protecting our water infrastructure, among other items. All of these are still on my agenda. Passing the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is one win for the Republican-led House of Representatives in 2025. I know that there will be many more after this. Thank you for listening and staying engaged.